So my question to the panel is, we have so many new emerging technologies. How do you decide which ones are right for your company? What goes into that that decision-making process about what new technology to use and
So what I always do is I start with the pain side, what causes pain, and then prioritize the pain of just how much pain are you in? Is there a workaround? Is there something that you can do until we can put something in place, or is the whole thing broken? So if something is broken, then it's a serious pain. I look at the pain first, and then I look at, because I'm always looking at a budget, I look at ROI. Am I going to get any money back on this whole investment? Talking about warehousing. Dollars spent in the warehouse are spent with every step that your picker goes from the pick ticket printer out to the product, back to wherever they're going to box it up. So if there's no automated system, no conveyor system, that means the guy is walking. So how much can I automate that? Because there's a huge ROI in reducing the time that it takes to fill an order. So now I have Google Glass and I have voice recognition, and what technologies actually can give me the biggest bang for the buck and be the fastest to implement? Because part of the ROI has to be, can I even get this implemented? I look at all these new technologies and think, this is really cool, and I'll never get it implemented. Because the cost to train, or the cost to just get people to buy into it is too high. So I look at the two things. What's your pain? And then I look at the ROI.
For us, I usually visit the stores as much as possible. So I'm usually out of the week, at least half the week, visiting the stores to look for opportunities for improvement. And part of that is also, spent time working with customers. And again, it comes back to what I originally said. I know it's, used over and over and overused as user experience, but that's really where I start with. And in the warehouse, for example, we look at the opportunities to streamline processes. So we work with the employees and talk to them and find out what's working and what's not. It's amazing how employees don't necessarily communicate with corporate, which is where I work out of. They complain a lot about what doesn't work. You can imagine even in your own businesses. They'll talk about, well, this coffee machine's been dead for years and nobody's doing anything. Well, chances are somebody doesn't know that it's broke. Well, the same thing happens even in our warehouses. So for us to go and see what's working and what's not, that's where I start. And for example, we spent a tremendous amount of time cutting wire. We do cut a lot of wire, and the wire machines, I think we got 5 wire machines in our Dallas facility, and those things are running 12 hours a day. So at first, the first couple of times I went there, it's 160,000 square feet warehouse, and they're in the back corner, and these poor guys and gals are running back and forth to communicate with the warehouse office, about how the wire cuts are supposed to be done, how they're supposed to be paralleled or sectioned, and whether or not they needed heads, all this information. And first they were trying walkie-talkies and radios, and then they had somebody that was just running back and forth on a little electric cart. And it's just amazing at something just as simple as that was just a matter of getting with the wire machine manufacturers. We first changed them up, put tablet mounts on them, put the inverters on them, and power outlets so we could put tablets and printers on every wire machine. And from there, we pushed from our dispatcher exactly what the wire cuts needed to be, what colors, what size, whether it needed to be paralleled, sectioned, what kind of reel, did it need an A-frame, all that information we pushed from our system. And that way they never have to leave the wire room, well, unless it's lunch or a break or something. But the idea is now they have the power to do their job correctly and less likely to make mistakes, because with us as a distributor, as anybody knows, once you cut that wire, you can't put it back on the reel. It's done. So obviously that's a huge opportunity. That's just one example that we worked with. And for the users, it was a huge experience because now they had the power to update the salespeople, the warehouse staff, the managers if there was any issues. I mean, right from their point. So mobile devices are key for us in the warehouse. So that's, so I always start with the user experience, and I guess it comes back to pain too, to a certain point. But on the other side, there's some employees, they don't care how painful it is. They're on the clock. So it's for me to dig out what's working and what's not, and look for opportunities to get that 20 picks per hour up to 40 or 50 picks per hour, and the receiving to where we can get with the manufacturer and hopefully go dock to stock, and we're not spending half the day, double checking stuff that should be correct. So that's generally, and then from there, I guess, finish my answer, is, I spend a lot of time on Google, and quite frankly, I go to conferences like this to see what other people are doing. It's always great to go to a conference and come back and say, wow, this company had a great idea, and implement it, and you see it grow from there. Because I'll be the first to say, I don't invent a lot of these technologies. I just find people that came up with the ideas and then find a place to put them in our business and make it work, and I will say a few fail, but we just learn from that and keep trying, and that's all we can do.
And to add to that, I think it's really important, and from networking with people in the industry, sometimes I hear, especially from the smaller distributors, but is make sure IT is aligned with your corporate strategy. And that's really important too. And a lot of IT departments, I don't think they are. They don't know what their corporate strategy is. They're just sitting there taking care of the pain stuff or the security stuff they got to deal with. But having that knowledge of what the corporate strategy is, and then also, I love what Phil said. I mean, it's so important to go and get down and dirty with your guys in the field, all the way down to the delivery drivers and the challenges that they have every day. And that really helps you make a decision on what technologies make sense and what technologies you should bring into your environment.
So this is what I'm hearing, and I think it's that phrase, user experience. How many of you, when you hear that term, what do you instantly think of? Shout it out. Come on, user experience. Web. Everybody thinks about the user experience from an e-commerce perspective. But what I think was really important and what I'm hearing from the panel is that when you define the user experience, it's not limited to the customer who's only coming in through your e-commerce site, but rather all of the users in a 360 view of your organization. And it just sounds to me like the part of the first steps in the process is making sure that you're aware of the emerging technologies. And where do you go to do that? You go to Google. There are a lot of things that you can learn from Google. You come to conferences like these, and then you talk to your users. You have to really understand where those pain points are and what they're hoping to accomplish. So good advice. All right. Now, there are a number of application suites to help the IT manage their infrastructure. See, I have to read this one because I really don't know what the tools are, okay, guys? I'm a business person, and this is what I love about IT. I have a problem. We talk, we're a little bit aware of the technology. We might make some suggestions to IT about what we think needs to be done. They'll usually come back and say, well, here's some better technology, here's a better approach. So you have, you're all from very large organizations, you're crossing multiple states. So what are the tools that you use to really help manage that whole IT infrastructure?
Well, I'll jump in here because I just recently came across some that have been invaluable for me that I wish I would have found out years ago. And this really goes to some of your smaller distributors because if you're a large scale, you probably have something like Microsoft System Center to help you manage a lot of your environment. But luckily, through a recent acquisition of Womack being bought by Crescent, I was made aware of a really nice application called PDQ. If you haven't heard of it, look it up. It's called PDQ Deploy and PDQ Inventory, and it's priced very, very reasonable to help you manage your assets. And inventory and deploy would be deploying the software across your organization. And it was a very manual process for us. I mean, we would at times, would remote in, have to install software on computers manually. We did some things through group policies, but if you ever worked in that, it's not easy to do stuff through there. And I was not aware of this technology, and it was brought up to me, and I looked into it, and I jumped on it right away. and it's definitely helped us a whole lot. So if you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend checking it out. That's one of the new ones that I've come across.
Okay.
It's been very, very good.
Great.
Well, for us, on that side, we don't do a lot of PCs. Most of our workstations, we use thin clients, so everything is through, RDP to our servers, so we control everything centrally. And I've been doing that ever since the dumb terminals and, green screens from the days, but that's kind of simplified our environment. We just don't do PCs, so we use a lot of mobile devices. And generally, I see that more of a direction, so tablets, notebook computers that can be updated offline. So for us, it's more about the infrastructure. It's simple tools such as PTRG. You can add sensors, and it's a great tool. We have TVs up, so it looks almost like a command center, so to speak. And since we're an Eaton distributor, we have the PowerWare software that we can control, and the Generac software for the generators, and various other things. So, even down to the power meters for that matter. So those are great, but for the networks, PTRG is great. For our virtualized environment, we're VMware. Yeah. PT. Okay. That's, okay. No, they're probably not. I'm just throwing some out. So for us, we have 100 and actually, close to 150 locations now. And the challenge for us as an IT organization or IT group is making sure all those locations stay online. So SDWin is one way of doing it. We're not an SDWin company, but we are large enough that we're actually our own broker. So we can get layer 2 circuits, and I won't go into all that unless you have questions on it. But basically, to manage that, since we are at such a low layer with the communication size, a big bulk of the management is also on us too. So this software tool allows us to add sensors, and you can do a lot of things with it. So say you have a PC and you want to make sure it doesn't run out of disk space. You can do that with this tool. Or say you want to watch your networks and make sure it doesn't have a certain latency, or the speed decreases, or you lose connectivity, or it drops up and down. I mean, y'all have all been on hotspots, I'm sure, where it works and it drops and it comes back up and it drops. Well, these type of tools will manage that and send alerts. That's what I love about IT applications. You set it up, forget it, and it just tells you when there's a problem. And that's generally what we do. So even though we have, just to give you an idea of what we try to do, we have about 1,900 employees and 150 branches, and I have a call center with 10 people, okay? And they handle IT calls, they deal with software support, hardware support, customers, vendors, along with servers, networks, security systems, video surveillance, everything. So any tools like this one, we can add on it, and we just set it up, and then it alerts us when it sees a potential problem. We're all about it because we can automate it, and that's just one example.
And you used another acronym.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
I like to do other ones. There are ones here for remember.
Okay.
We've got 4 now we have one that's 5, which is SD1.
SDWin, yes.
WAN. Educated old.
Yeah.
So SD-WAN. Someone, Della, do you want to define what that is?
It's software-driven wide area network. So it's what I think it's what the SD stands for. I never remember, but it allows you to have a single control center that sees your entire network. If the lines are green, they're up. If they're red, they're down. And it has an automatic failover, automatic load balancing, which is key. So if a lot of applications go out to the internet, that's going to eat up your bandwidth. Bandwidth is always a problem. So what the SD-WAN does is not only does it provide the automatic failover, but it provides that load balancing that's automatic as well. So, those are some of the things that we've been looking at, and that's really, the load balancing was probably, is right up there with the 100% uptime.
And to add to that, Womack has, if you ask CenturyLink, what we'd be on would be a hybrid SD-WAN. So we have your traditional MPLS network, right? That's your private connection between 2 branches, point A to point B. And then typically what you would have to do if you had MPLS, then you would have to have a separate internet connection. You would have what would be a hairpin network where all your traffic comes back into your home corporate location, you do all your filtering, and then it goes back out. Well, we have the traditional MPLS, and then we got what CenturyLink calls network-based security, and we manage all that in the cloud. So all the internet traffic, what can come in and what can come out, is all cloud-based. And I have a console, I can see real-time traffic of all my users. I got control over the firewall, and I don't have to have a Cisco certified engineer or whoever, you know, CCA, whatever, in there programming my routers and doing that. I can do it all cloud-based, so it makes it a lot more simple to manage. And on top of that, all of our MPLS locations have the redundancy built in. So if the primary connection goes down, the T1s or the Ethernet connector, the fiber connections, it automatically fills over to a secondary connection. And we have that for every one of our locations now. It got to a point with Womack when if a branch went down, people forgot how to do their jobs because they didn't have internet. It was just like, I don't even know what to do. I mean, you know, I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't know what to do? I mean, 95% of our customers are on account, so you can write it down, go pick it, and then when the system comes back up, you can enter and bill them back out, you know. You don't have a ton of cash customers walking in, you have to do that, but now they don't have that excuse. The phones stay up, the internet stays up, everything stays up, as long as, you know, they don't lose cell service. But that, you know, it's, in my opinion, SDWin is a lot like the marketing of cloud, right? It's the basic same technology, but we're wrapping another layer of software around to help it easier to manage your entire network.